All right. I have a question for you. I'm going to give you a scenario, and you're going to answer this question. Are these people that are going to be described, are they a freedom fighter or freedom fighters or terrorists? So here's the fictional scenario that I'll pose to you. So what do you think we would do if the people of Hawaii, who are American citizens but who live in Hawaii, they decide they want to be their own country? Under this scenario, the following things are happening. They decided that taxes are too high and aren't just no longer paying taxes for federal government taxes in America. In large numbers, people in Hawaii, who are again American citizens, start buying weapons, and not just like a pistol. They're buying tanks and cannons and missiles. They're buying the heavy artillery of the time, and also people start using social media to talk about overthrowing the government in Hawaii, and it's getting a large following. So, in addition to that, you may want to take this into consideration. From Washington, D.C., the United States capital, to Honolulu, Hawaii, is 4,826 miles. Just for comparison, from Washington, D.C., to Berlin, Germany is actually closer, 4,167 miles. Or Washington, D.C. to Rome, Italy, 4,481 miles. Or Washington, D.C. to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, is 4,797 miles. So all of those, international cities, Berlin, Rome, Rio de Janeiro, are actually closer to Washington, D.C. than Honolulu, Hawaii is. And comparison that, maybe the historical topic that I'm getting to with this, you may have caught on, but it is 3,269 miles from Boston to London. All right, so take a minute and answer the question. Are these, in this fictional scenario, are these people from Hawaii, American citizens, are they freedom fighters or are they a terrorist? All right, so the scenario that's played out here is similar to the way people would have looked at, some people would have looked at the members of the American colonies who decide to fight for independence and go up against Great Britain and eventually win the independence for our country. So this is brought up because at the time, those people, who are like George Washington, who's in the drawing here, who are fighting for independence, whether they're actual soldier or somebody, who just behind the scenes is doing things to push for independence of the colonies, some would have called them freedom fighters and some would have called them terrorists. They would have looked at them as going against the rightful leader of which is Great Britain, and what they're doing, whether it's throwing tea over a boat in Boston Harbor in the Boston Tea Party, or actually getting guns and attacking the British, they would look at them as a terrorist. So it's important just to understand any topic in history that there is perception, and the way the same exact event is perceived by different people can be very different. In the case of the Revolutionary War, as we'll learn, early on, the early movements towards rebellion against the British would have been more of a minority group doing those things. It would have been looked at, more people might have looked at those as being the acts of a terrorist, of a domestic terrorist. Maybe not using that same word, but that idea. Over time, more and more people would have seen them as freedom fighters. But still, there are going to be people who are loyal to Great Britain throughout the war who would have looked at the people who fought for the American colonies against the British as terrorists or unloyal members of the British government.